Okay, we're going to walk into the MOWG-Pro next, but even before we do that, just real quick, for the sheer fun of it, I got rid of the files. I'm going to do it again, just real fast. I'm not even going to speak. You'll see what we've done so far, right? Import, MOWG-affiliate.com. Imported. Good. Universal fixes. Make sure it says MOWG-affiliate.com. Replace. Done. Okay, so we're good with that. Code to vars. We already know the page is going to look right. We don't even need to save it as an HTML. Everything is there. Highlight the source, and it's there. And from here, I can hit the header generator. Except I shouldn't yet. I just realized one thing I did forget. Delete. Is the replace editor, right? Replace to get rid of funky characters like these. There, it's done. So now I hit the header generator. It's done. I take the top line, copy, stick on another sheet, paste, and then code reassembly with a space. There it is. One last time with a replace header, because that actually kind of serves two purposes. And so now I can save as HTML. And remember what I had to do inside there. Edit, replace, a question mark, or I'm sorry, a space question mark with a question mark, replace all. And assuming that that's all I wanted to do, this is ready, it looks good, everything makes sense, and we can continue with this particular project, right? And so that's how fast, this can be done, with the exception, of course, of going through the vars in reality. Okay, I get rid of that line, delete the SSSs, give it a minute to finish, done, and then just save that as a CSV file. I'm done. I can close this thing now. Literally. Here it is. I don't know what's up with that, but that's an easy fix. We'll get it figured out. Remember this. Save, yes. Close, don't save. And it's all done. I can even get rid of the original thing just to keep everything clean, and here I am. That's how fast. Okay, now you understand it a whole lot better, and you can see what we're doing, and it occurs to you that this is extremely fast. The rest of the operation is basically just as fast as what we did, maybe a little slower because we got to look some things up, like our FTP username and password, if we want to do FTP, and we just have to understand it. So let's start. We've got our project in our MOWG folder, and what do we want to do with the MOWG-Pro? We want to say make the relationship between the HTML file, which is that one, and the vars file, which is that one. Okay, we need to make that. If I just click in here, it'll open it. And so I need to make sure it goes to the right place for the project I'm working on right now, which is right here, 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 there. And now it assumes that folder, so it is correct for this. Just make sure these all match and that you've got the right files together. It's going to save the files it generates locally on my computer in this particular place, unless I choose a different place, so I can see what my runs look like. And I have a shortcut to that right here. Okay, and these are old runs. They're date time stamped. Every time it produces runs, it date time stamps them. And that's an archive for other things I like to keep, which just happens to be empty right now. Okay, there you go. See MOWG-Pro and runs. That is this path here. See MOWG-Pro runs. So that was just my shortcut right here on the desktop. Where am I going to put these things? Well, I know I'm going to put them where? MOWG-affiliate.com, right? That's the idea, to create pages on the website. Now at first, I don't want to upload them to FTP because I want to make sure I know how they look when they get produced. So we're just going to produce 100 of them really fast so that we can spot check, make sure we like what we see. And again, our pages are going to read badly because we didn't go through the vars. But that's okay because I'm going to show you a shortcut for that, like I've been saying forever and a day. Otherwise, you just go through the vars by hand. And if you're wondering, we have a lot of people that are more than willing to do var sheets for you by hand. But the usual cost for producing a var sheet of this size, where all the wording has been gone through properly, which, as you can imagine, takes a handful of hours and a lot of concentration, 2, maybe 3 or more hours and a lot of concentration to go through a var sheet this big. It's actually huge. If I want to do a real count on the characters, remember these numbers skip because there were so many statics. If I did a header generator again, it's like a fake way of saying how many there really are. Like if I go to the end now, there are 860 columns here. Okay, 860. This would be like a $500 var sheet, having someone else do it because of all the time. Might take 4 or 5 hours to get it completely clean. You know what I mean? And so we like to automate as much of this as possible and either do it ourselves or hire someone else, but we don't need to. We can automate it now and make it so easy it's not that hard to do. And that's something quite new. That's something that just unfolded a month ago from the time of this recording. Okay, I got my HTML file, my vars file. I already know where it's going and I know the domain I'm going to put this thing on. I know I'm going to do 100 test files, output file extension, just leave it .html. You could go .htm if you really wanted, but there's not really a reason. Just stick with .html. It just looks a little more professional all the way around. We're not going to upload to FTP yet because we still want to test and see how these look locally before we even consider that. So let's save this project. The cool thing is we get to save this information so we don't have to enter it every time. And we're going to save it where? We're going to save it with everything else. Let's save it here with everything else. And so let's call it, and it's like our first run for the MOWG affiliate website. So we'll just call it that, say. That way it's right here. Okay? So now we have it. As a matter of fact, if I go to close it, I can hit yes to save it. Just by default, it's going to ask you anyway. And if I want to open it, I can click on it. And it's just like clicking on this. Either way, you're going to have to load it anyway, but you can load it, which is perfectly cool. You can load hundreds of profiles this way. And yes, you can run this in multiple. You can actually open a second copy of it and have it work on an entirely different project if you have one. And you can do these things at the same time. Okay? Now what do we need to do? Well, if we're going to generate these web pages, it's one thing just to generate web pages, but then there's a whole second part of the process that we need that's equally important. And that's to create a URL breakdown or a URL structure. I can refresh the vars. And then it has them all, you see. Now that's good. Now I can generate these however I want. Except the reality check in the end is that I need to create some sort of a URL structure. And I'll show that to you a little later, but right now I'm just going to kind of fake it so that you can see what's going on. All right, so let's just do this. Bap, 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 bap. And I'm faking it. I'm creating a fake URL structure. I'm going to have online-marketing-solutions slash online-marketing-solutions-systems slash, and then whatever else I want. Maybe I don't want the word is, so I can remove it. And I can say online marketing automation at its best. Maybe I want to say something like that. So it'd be, let me click here again. Online down arrow. I'm using the up arrow and the down arrow. Marketing automation at dash its dash best. What do you think it ends with? You don't need to put anything in here unless you want to. It ends with .html at the end of this thing. So if you put something in here, you could. You just don't need to because it's going to end with that. At its best, you could say something like dash time. Okay, and then it will end with .html. It's just usually this is going to wind up blank because you finally got to the last var you wanted. Now, what do you think it's going to do? It's going, if I save it, by the way, I can go back. It's going to create links that pick up from this concept right here. Next. And it's going to continue building this sort of thing in. Okay? And that's what's going on. So it's going to literally create a page that says something like mowg-affiliate.com slash online-marketing-solutions slash online-marketing-solutions-systems slash online automation at its best. But not all the web pages are going to use the same things. These are vars right off the CSV file, right? One more thing. See that unique _vars.csv? MOWG-Pro created this which is its way of bridging the information between the var sheet and the profile itself. Normally you would never bother to touch this because let MOWG-Pro touch it. Let MOWG-Pro deal with it. You just make changes to the var sheet and then hit refresh vars if you add new ones or whatever. And then just go through with this. You see var 3, var 4, var 5. If I open it, and I should be reading only, but there's var 3, var 4, var 5, online marketing solutions. Well, as it creates the pages, if it creates a page with connected selling answers, then the URL path it's going to use, and that's the whole point of this, and that's valuable, incredibly valuable. One of the URLs is going to be connected, whatever I said, advertising answers. It'll actually say connected dash advertising dash answers slash, and so on and so forth. Now this is also cool if you use geo-targeting and you have a var that's all about city-state combinations or anything. You can say online marketing solutions in, you know, Atlanta, comma Georgia, or Atlanta, Georgia. If it has a comma, it'll get rid of it for the URL. It already knows to delete weird symbols and spaces and everything else, so don't worry about it. You can choose anything you want off the sheet. But it's going to create URLs that match the wording on the page it generates page by page by page. So these URLs are going to be nicely keyword related concepts with slashes between them. By the way, why do I use a backslash? Because I'm saving these files to my computer first. And on my computer, paths, right? Normal paths that you follow use backslashes. That's the opposite of online. Online, they're flipped over and made into forward slashes, which this will do automatically for you. So you don't have to worry about it. Just backslashes because we produce the files on our computer first. All right, so let me shut this. It shouldn't be open anyway because it's a CSV file. It's more or less in use by the software, or it will be. And let's see, we said we were going to create 100 pages to see what they look like. Let's do that. Now, it might ask you, the ID column is not selected. It's strongly suggested to select the ID column to ensure unique URLs are generated. Do you wish to continue without selecting the ID column? The reason for that is if you don't use a lot of vars on here and you try to create a lot of web pages, then sooner or later these URLs will override each other because there are not as many vars in here as the pages you're going to create. This is only using a few, like 10 vars. Okay, you can only use a max of 15 total. Okay, because after that you've got too long characters. The character count should not exceed 255 total. Okay, for all the characters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But variable by variable by variable, you could get some long terms here, 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 and you could get too long URLs, and then the pages break. But if you're not using a lot of vars, then you're going to create a lot of web pages, then you want to have an ID column, which is exactly this one up here called ID. And what that does is make sure there's a number in here somewhere, which you can use any way you want. You could have a dash special offer dash, then the ID. So it'll put like a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 page by page and a slash. And that way you find any way you want to get a number in here somewhere. So as it creates pages, it keeps changing the number. It goes up. So every URL will be unique one way or another. All right. Now, I don't care to do it, and often you won't, because numbers also kind of get in the way and you don't like them very much unless you pay attention to dealing with them in a sensible way. I've had people just try to put a number at the end. So you get slash ID, and then that's it, and that's where it ends. So then every web page is just a web page with a number, 1.html, 2.html. They're in different folders, but what good is a web page with the name like 12.html? It's no good at all. So we try to teach people the sensible way and then introduce the ID column. Well, I'm going to go anyway. And so here it is. And it's actually generating the pages. And as we know, this is the shortcut. That's what I said, and it's almost done. And sure enough, it tells you how many it successfully created, how many failed, and if it is uploading to FTP, how many successfully uploaded, and how many failed, just so you know. As long as you're close, you're fine with it because the sitemaps will only be built off of what was successfully uploaded to the FTP server, I believe. Either that or the successfully HTML files created. So far, it has always uploaded everything it's created, unless like your internet connection goes down. Then it can't create the sitemaps anyway. But the sitemaps are based on the files successfully created, and then assuming they all upload, then the sitemaps will always be 100% correct. Okay, so we're done with that. Now, again, this is really quick. You know, we're talking through it to death, but it's really quick. Now, this is time date stamped. And it's got everything inside of it, and it's amazingly crystal clear how much stuff is here and how well it's laid out. Okay? But if I come back, I could, for archiving purposes, if I liked it, I could say 1-MA. And I could say it's the first run for the first project. So, you know, my next one might be 1-MA-2, meaning the first project I ever did for MOWG Affiliate, but the second run. Okay? So I can do that if I want. It's fine. Now, in here, what do I have? I have everything. I have the original index page. And so if I uploaded it, it would actually overwrite the main page because that's what it is. And take a look at this. Again, the verbiage is silly because we didn't do this by hand. But do you notice how it's all correctly in here? I mean, the page is full and readable and understandable, except that the wording is no good. We needed to go through the wording and get it right. Now, this is just one page, and sure enough, it does click through to where it's supposed to click through. What if I wanted to check out one of these other pages? I have an operational promotion keys in there, another folder called wired publicizing, elucidations, orderliness. Again, I didn't go through the wording, and there's a page in there with a useful name at least. It's a keyword optimized name of some sort about what is on that page. And so if I open it, guess what you're going to find? This reads differently. Okay, so it's unique for Google and it should read well, but I didn't go through the wording combinations. But nonetheless, here it is, and it's all there. It's completely different wording, so Google's fine with it as long as it's readable, which is the part where we put time into the varsheet, or, like I say, the automation that we have for it now, which I'm going to show you next. Okay, and that makes all this work. And real quick, just so you know, these keywords are literally on the page somewhere. Even a weird word like elucidations. If I highlight that, copy, and I do an edit, find on this page, and I look for elucidations, it may not be found here, but that's because it's somewhere else. It could be in the page title, which that it isn't, view source, but it's going to be somewhere. It's in the description tag, right? Meta name description. So that's perfect because for Google purposes, that's how it needs to be. The words here need to be on the page. So mechanization, for instance, needs to be on the page somewhere. It can be the page title, description, keywords, something like that. Again, it's going to be in there. What about operational? Just curious. And promotion. Oh, I know what I did. I grabbed all of my okay, there's promotion here. I was gonna say I grabbed when I created the URL structure. How did I do it again? I grabbed all the things that were virtually at the top. I don't even think I got to any of the words that were on the body, which of course is down in here. These are always the first words off the var sheet. But keep in mind that if you go and change all these words to other words, that this may still read that way because it's reading from its own translation file. And this always keeps the original entries once a var is created. So for instance, once there's a var 3, then the unique vars will assume online will be the first one, even if you go changing it. Okay? It will just do that on its own. It doesn't matter though. So if you changed all the words and you got afraid that it's not keeping up, It is, when you generate the pages, you'll see it's doing it right. It just holds its own record for every new var. If you create a brand new var, it will show up at the very, very bottom when you hit refresh vars. And so you can create more vars, like adding the city state column in and then integrating it into the page somehow. And when you come back here, hit refresh vars and it'll catch up with all the changes. And then you can get that var into your URL breakdown somehow. So now you have geo-targeting added as well. It's just like any other var. It's just a geo-targeting var because it's about cities and states, whatever it is you want to do. All right, so I actually did basically the rest of the work. The only other thing is, if I would have turned on FTP and followed through the path, then it would actually upload the project. Now, the only thing I have to be aware of right now is that the index page would overwrite the index page on my website because I'm not creating this inside a project. That's a little more advanced. I'll show you that soon. And if I wanted to create individual projects, that's fine. But if I'm going to put it right in the root like this, I just need to be aware that the index page for this index page is the equivalent of the front page of the website. And so it will overwrite the front page of the website. We did build in a catch-all to fix that just in case. You see this index2.html? Every time it creates a project, it creates one index2.html inside every folder. You know what that is? That is where it used the first line of vars all the way across the page. It's a backup file. So inside that run, okay, see this first line. If you remember, this is the original wording. Okay, it's the original wording we took down in the first place from the website. This is the original row. So this is what the index2.html is made of. Okay, it uses that original row, and that's your backup. All right, so that's what you needed to know about that. Okay, I'll continue on in the next recording. We'll talk about uploading to the FTP server, and we'll take a look at the rest of it. You see, there's more. There's sitemap files that would be created, and those sitemap files showing the index page and also the additional pages we created with all of the keyword optimized URL structures where all of the wording comes right off the pages. Now, if I click any one of these, it'll go there, and of course it's broken right now because I did not upload the web pages, right? I could upload them. I can use FTP right now and upload them, and then they will all work. As a matter of fact, I can just do it this way. Those of you familiar with FTP, you know exactly how this works. I could go to that site. I know where it is. Okay, and what I could do is create that or upload that entire project, right? And so how would you do that normally? You would go to the MOWG-Pro runs folder right there, and all of this, you would just simply upload all of it except for your index page because you don't want to overwrite that. You see what I mean? And so we can just upload it just like this, and all those pages will go live. Now, I don't see a point in even bothering because I don't like these pages. They don't read well. The keyword combinations don't mean a lot. So I don't need to do that. I'm content to delete this particular run anyway. And we're going to do it better. Real quick, the kind of way that actually gets us paid one day because we show up for keywords with pages that make sense. So we'll be getting into that pretty soon. All right, so I'm going to show you the FTP bit. All you have to do is enter your FTP information, username, and pass. And if you do a project folder here, so you get the whole thing in a project, okay, then of course this must match. So if it uses a public HTML in the true path, or a web pages or home folder, whatever it is, that's where it's going to upload to. So then it's just got to end the same way. Control C, Control V. That way it uploads the pages to the same place that it's going to build that project on and all the sitemaps from, all the linkage, everything will be there. And I wouldn't call it project folder. I'd use the opportunity to give this a keyword name, some kind of keyword that's worthwhile that relates to my project. Okay, so I just need the username and the password, and I'd be able to upload to FTP. It's really it. That's all I need, and it'll take care of that for me. All right, that's the end of this. We'll talk about FTP, and we'll talk most importantly also about the automation of the VARs process so you don't have to do it by hand, which is the kind of thing you would pay someone else like $500 to do, and you would rather be able to do pretty much on automatic without having to pay people to do it. And that's the component that erased, like 2 hours or more of thought, intensive thought about the VAR sheet. It erased most of that work so that all of a sudden, all of these huge runs we do, we can do several in a day. And the pages will be readable. And since it really doesn't take time to think through the URL structure, our runs just are able to be done very fast. Okay, so in the next step, we're actually going to start over again and move forward, and this time use the automated um, spinner concept to be able to create our vars much more easily and show you how that works. Then we'll do the FTP actually, because that would be the next step of the process when we're ready for it. Okay, so far so good. You're getting there. You're almost there, actually. We just have the last component to teach, and on the way to it, we're just going to redo the work we've done so far so you can remember and see how fast it was. Okay,